Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of football, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You are tuning in to Season 7, Episode 2 of Full Time. I am your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, visit siouxsports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Recordings of Full Time, powered by 91 Network, occur weekly or bi-weekly on YouTube and Podbean. If you are listening to today's podcast, make sure to subscribe to 91 Network so you can catch us every time that we upload content right here on the Full Time Podcast. Folks, we welcome you back to the Full Time Podcast where we get to connect on the sport that we love. G, how are you this evening, my friend?
I'm doing good. Finally, back from vacation, got a full week of work back in, so kind of settling back into reality. Nice quiet day at work, beautiful weather. I'm having a fantastic day, Scarps. How about you?
I'm also having a fantastic day, sir. And to your point, I think routine is medicine, and I will soon be having that back in my life in the next couple of weeks, which is also good. In today's show, we will preview Europe's Big Five as the season approaches. We will take a look at the MLS, the summer transfer window, and we will get into some local soccer for university level. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gitano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started by previewing Europe's Big Five. Gitano, another 10 months of domestic football is imminent as league play across Europe's top 5 leagues and all of Europe, for that matter, kicks off this week. How are you feeling with things fast approaching, sir?
Yeah, I'm excited. It feels like it just ended. I remember I actually watched the last game of City season like in my office on my TV here, like cried my eyes out with Pep and Bernardo and John Stones leaving. Like it feels like that was a couple weeks ago. It doesn't feel like it's been, there was a World Cup in between that and now. So yeah, just super excited to get back at it. Excited to. It's weird for me as a City fan. This is gonna be our first season in a decade where Pep's not our coach, so it's going to be weird. It's going to be some growing pains, I assume, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to get back to it, and yeah, just excited to have honestly just all the soccer back. If we're going to be totally honest, not just City. Like I can't wait for like the days where City start at 7:30 and like the last kickoff is like a Serie A game at like 3:30, quarter to 4. Like I can't wait to just rot on the couch and watch soccer all day. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, weekend footy, that is the best, and just having weekly footy on our television is definitely something that I look forward to. We just talked about routine in the opening there, and having that weekly routine of knowing that there's going to be football on weekends during the day, because of course we have MLS in the evenings, but just to have it on in the morning and in the afternoon, that is something that I'm looking forward to most. Also, of course, looking forward to watching my Arsenal play, just like you're looking forward to watching your City play. And Gitano, we're going to start by taking a look, of course, into the English Premier League. Last season, it was Arsenal who won the league for the first time in 22 years. This season, we see a lot of teams with new managers, 9 new managers in the Premier League to be exact, so basically half of the league. Certainly a lot of new players and faces in the Premier League this season, and perhaps this season maybe just a new outlook altogether. So, Gitano, before we get into some potential challengers and winners, and before we pick our top 5, how do you foresee things playing out in the Premier League this season?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the managers thing because I think Mikel Arteta is now the most tenured manager in the league at this point, which
Yes.
is crazy because, again, it's one of those things that feels like he just left City like a couple seasons ago, which he did, but also didn't. But it's wild to think that like in that time, every other manager in the league has now left, and he is the most tenured manager. It's crazy to think. I think this is going to be a really really interesting season. There's been a lot of change with the top teams. Liverpool new manager, City new manager, Chelsea new manager. Arsenal, how are they going to defend a Premier League title? They haven't had to do it in 22 years, and a very young squad. How are they going to hold up to that? I think there's a lot of uncertainty almost at the top. There's not that guarantee of it's going to be Pep and Klopp finishing 1 and 2 in whatever order, and then everyone else will finish after them. I think there's 3 or 4 teams that could realistically be challenging for the title. And even then, there's going to be, I assume, still somebody, maybe not all the way through the season, but someone who kind of holds on till end of November, beginning of December, in one of those European spots, and maybe not challenging for the title, but up there as well. I expect it to be super, super wide open and kind of the least predictable in a very long time, I think.
Yeah, I think the lack of predictability is probably the right way to put it, and I don't see anybody running away with it either way. And I think that there's going to be a lot of toss-ups week in, week out as to who's going to win matches. I think we're going to see some very fluky results, and I think that's just going to make for better parity in the league. And there's a lot of unknowingness going into this season, and we're going to get into a little bit of that here and now. So, Gitano, for you, who is your top five in the Premier League this year? And again, how do you foresee things playing out in that top five as 5 teams again will qualify for Champions League football?
So I'm gonna start at 5 and work my way up because I have the teams in mind. I still haven't quite worked out the order, so I'm gonna try and kind of talk my way through it and
Sure.
talk myself into picking an order here because I've been thinking about it all day and every half hour I'm like, oh no, but maybe it'll change, maybe this. So in 5th, I have Sunderland. I think they did fantastic business this summer off the back of a fantastic season last season. I think the experience that they got through that season, how well they performed is going to be huge for them now. They managed to keep Granit Xhaka, which was massive for them. I know Chelsea and a couple other clubs were interested. Keeping their captain and probably their best player is huge, huge, huge for them. And I just kind of expect kind of other teams that would traditionally be in those kind of spots to maybe not have great seasons. I've got Sunderland finishing 5th. 4th, it's a weird toss up here because one of these teams I'm not going to have in my top 5 at all. I think it's either between United or Chelsea. I think one of them is going to have kind of their normal season where they're a bit of a disaster, but manage to scrape enough wins together to kind of end up in a European spot. And the other one will have a catastrophic year and end up in 16th or something. But just with new managers, the massive influx and exodus of players at both clubs, I just think there's one of those 2 teams will probably kind of have a normal-ish season, and one of them won't. So one of the 2 of them there, I think Xabi Alonso is just so much better a manager. I'm going to give the edge to Chelsea. I'm going to have Chelsea in 4th. In 3rd, I'm going to take Liverpool. Again, a lot of work to do in that squad. Obviously, Mo Salah leaves, maybe their greatest ever player. They got a new manager in. There's a lot of change, a lot of turmoil in that squad right now. Still more than enough quality, I think, to be in these positions and kind of be challenging, but not, I don't think, quite enough to win the league. Part of me wants to say Arsenal second, but I think City will finish second. I think there's just I'm not going to expect Maresca to walk into a City team that needs a rebuild and immediately just nail it in the first transfer window and in the January window and win the league. I think that would be unrealistic to expect from him. Especially the news that Rodri's probably off to Barcelona or Madrid, one of the 2. I don't know; they haven't confirmed which one yet, but he's off. You're talking about rebuilding that midfield. The attack, Holland and Semenyo probably still need a little bit more support. Defense looks all right. Probably could use at least one more fullback. So I think to expect them to win the league with this squad, I don't think, unless something terrible happens with Arsenal and Liverpool and everyone else. I wouldn't expect City to win the league, but again, to be in the conversation and in a European spot would be kind of all right. And I think Arsenal will win the league again. I just think they've got the experience, and really, it's not that Arsenal haven't gotten better, but I don't think the teams around them have gotten better enough to close that gap at the end of the season. So it's not that Arsenal are going to fluke their way. I don't mean anything like that, but I just think nobody's made the steps, made the signings, changed anything to really make a difference from what happened last season. So yeah, I'll have Arsenal winning the league, City finish second, Liverpool 3rd, Chelsea 4th, and Sunderland in 5th.
It's a a wonderful summary there, Gitano, and you provided so many good reasons. And I think it's probably worth mentioning as well. There still is 2 weeks left in the transfer window. So for us making these predictions here and now on August 17th, in 2 weeks' time, we could look back at this and say, if I would have known that, whatever, Manchester United or if City or if Liverpool or whoever would have made these deals, well, I would have put them in a different spot. Or maybe we would say if they would have actually done business because, for some teams, the window's been quiet. Well, maybe I would have put them out of the top five. So we're taking a bit of a gamble with these picks, but we're trying to assert ourselves in such a way where, our knowledge on the sport can hopefully get our picks right. For me, in spot number five, Gitano, I'm going with Aston Villa. I think that they're probably a piece or two away just because they're going to be playing so much football this season, so much competitive football. But again, 2 weeks left in the window. I'm going to put them in fifth. I have great faith in Unai Emery. In fourth, I'm going Liverpool. I think that squad is really good. And I also believe that what you're going to see from Liverpool this season is that they're going to be shored up defensively. They're not going to leak as many goals under Iraola. I think they're going to be more well drilled. They might not be as prolific in the attack, let's say, especially with the absence of Mo Salah, as you mentioned. But I believe that they'll finish in the top five. I got them fourth. In third, I was a bit reluctant to do this, but I am going to put Chelsea. I think just my faith personally in Xabi Alonso, yes, he does have a lot to pick from, and that's probably going to be a bit of a headache in the beginning. But as soon as he can figure out the system and the players that fit in that system, I think once we get maybe 10 to 12 games in, I think you're going to see a really good Chelsea side. So I think in that, let's call it last, I don't know, 20-ish games of the season, I think that they'll flourish. I think they're going to finish third. Second for me is going to be Manchester City. Reports coming in that they're going to sign a few more players before the window is up. They are going to be competitive. They are going to be there, and they already have players that know how to do it, even though there is a new manager, of course. And in the top spot, I am going to put Arsenal, not for reasons that I think they have the absolute best squad because I think Manchester City has a great squad. Liverpool has a great squad. Chelsea certainly have a lot more than anybody to pick from. It's not because I think we have the best manager, because I think Unai Emery is the best manager, actually. But I think that it's the mentality of the squad and being able to bring back so many players. Yes, we brought in a few new pieces, but players now that know how to win the league, I think that's going to be big. And hopefully we can now be put in the same conversation as Chelsea, Manchester United, and Manchester City as one of the only teams to defend a Premier League. So, Gitano, that is going to be my top five for the English Premier League this season. And with title challenges comes the infamous relegation battle. Gitano, last season we saw a relegation battle which went to the final match day, which we had not seen in the past few seasons previous. But this season, who do you think might go down?
So I don't think it's going to be three up, three down. We've seen that a lot recently. I don't think it's going to be that. Ipswich has done some really fantastic business so far. I think they'll look really good, and I think they'll probably end up staying up. But I do think I have, and in no kind of particular order. I've got Coventry going back down. I've got Hull going down, and then I think this is the season they don't avoid the drop. I think Spurs go down. I think, and last season I kind of said it as a joke because haha they almost got relegated and they're Spurs. But like watching them last season, I look and I'm like, this is not a team that is built to stay in the Premier League. From the squad on the field to the coaching staff to management, like it's just a disaster all the way around. And you can kind of only skirt around this for so long. We've seen West Ham, what happened with them, kind of, playing in that fire of being a relegation candidate team, and eventually it catches up to you. And we know we've talked about how much money Spurs have spent this summer on players, and I think they've signed great players. But I think, when I think De Zerbi's going to crash out probably by Christmas, he's going to leave them in a terrible spot, and then you're in the same cycle again of bringing in a manager in around Christmas, New Year, and having to drag yourselves out of a relegation battle. I think this is the year that it finally kind of catches up to them, and I think they're actually going to go down.
That's a fair show, Gitano, and I certainly didn't want to be the guy to say that it'd be three up, three down. Finally, last season we didn't see that, which was great. But you have teams that have done decent business this summer so far to sort of hopefully assure themselves that they could stay in the Premier League for next season. But again, no guarantees. I'm going to say as well that Hull City is going to go down. I just can't see them coming up and staying up. I'd like to say that Coventry is going to stay. because I do like Frank Lampard. I really, really do, but I think that they're going to have a tough go at it. So I'm going to pick them to go down. And then my off the grid sort of pick to go down, and I don't know if this is going to be shocking or not. I'm going to say Crystal Palace. I think that they've lost some really, really, really big names. New manager coming in. I just don't know how they're going to cope with everything. They also have European football this season. I'm not entirely sure of how that's going to work out. So I'd love Palace to stay up at the top, but I am going to have to go maybe a little bit off the grid and pick something a little bit dramatic. So I'm going to say Crystal Palace in that regard. I picked Wolves last season, which was a bit off the grid, and that came true. So we'll see what happens in this regard. I hate doing this, by the way, because we have to count teams out before they've even started. But
I know,
this,
I
this is
know.
the nature of the Premier League. The relegation battle is sometimes just as entertaining as the title race. Let's shift across now, Gitano. Let's go to Spain's La Liga. Last season, it was Barcelona who won the title for a second year in a row. Gee, does Barcelona make it a three-peat this year, or will Real Madrid have something to say about that?
So I think this goes one of two ways. The first way is that, you know, box office Real Madrid with Mourinho, he lights a fire under them, and they turn into like again that kind of prime 2014-15 Real Madrid side. I just tear apart Spain and Europe and are just the best team in the world without a doubt. Or by Christmas we have the fireworks going off, and he's banished everyone to the training with the reserve kids, and either way, cinema I think really is how it's gonna go. Um, but I think, and I pulled it up here. Rodri looks like he's going to Barcelona. I think they have a slightly better squad than Real Madrid, and just in terms of, I think Real Madrid has better individuals, but I think the actual team and how they play as a unit, Barcelona is a little bit better. And I think adding Rodri to that midfield is just unfair, really.
Yeah.
It's going to be the best midfield in world football. And I think that that will be kind of the difference maker for them to make it a three-peat. But yeah, so I'm going to go with that. But also, like, I wouldn't be shocked if we see, Jose again. He'll be fantastic this season. He'll be fantastic like halfway through next season, and then it'll all fall apart and be fantastic. But I think this season, Barcelona's going to win La Liga.
Yeah, Gaetano, I have a funny feeling on these last four that we pick. I think that we're both gonna have all the same picks, but I'm also going Barcelona. But Mourinho, he'll be at Real Madrid for two, maximum 3 seasons, absolute max. But you figure that he's gonna win something big within the next couple of seasons, this season or next. But I think for this season, especially with the addition of Rodri, which seems to be imminent at Barcelona, I think that Barcelona is going to make it three in a row, and then maybe next season Mourinho might have something to say about that. But we're both going to go with Barcelona to make it three in a row in Spain's La Liga. In Italy, Serie A, Inter returned back to their glory last season by winning the Scudetto. Gee, does Inter run it back this year, or are we looking at a competitive field of teams in Italy to challenge for the title?
I think it's going to be a really competitive field. The last few seasons have been really, really competitive in Italy, with plenty of teams kind of hanging on, up until mid to late March, which has been fantastic. Just as a neutral, no real stakes in it. It's been really, really fun to watch. I think it's probably gonna be those same teams. It's gonna be Inter. It's gonna be Napoli. Juve are gonna be up there. Milan, AC Milan's gonna kind of be up in there. But I think when you look at the best squad in the league, it's Inter, and it's not really that close. I think other teams like Napoli and Juve have done good business, but I don't think it's enough to get them, to that level that Inter are at. I think Inter are going to retain.
Gitano, I am on the same page as you. I'm also taking Inter to retain, and I know that we're not talking about it today, but I'm going to put this one out there. I'll get your thoughts on it. Last season in the Champions League, Italian teams performed very poorly. I think that's very fair to say. I kind of foresee the same thing happening again this year, despite the fact that I also believe that Serie A will be competitive. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of what Italian teams might possibly do in the Champions League?
Yeah, and I mean, like, when I look at the Italian teams in the Champions League, like, am I shocked that teams like and even European football in general, am I shocked that teams like Roma and Juve are like crashing out early? Like, not particularly. To me, the real shock was how poor Napoli and Inter were in the Champions League. For how good those squads are, and they are really good squads. Like, I think just on paper, you'd compare them to the best across Europe. They'd be Inter at least would probably be top five. Yeah, I think just maybe an off season for them last year. I wouldn't expect all of the Italian teams to run it back. I would expect Inter to have a slightly better season, but I think, yeah, I think it was just kind of an off year for Italian football in general in Europe.
That's a fair assessment, I'd say. But what's also fair is that we both believe that Inter will run it back again this season in Serie A. In Germany's Bundesliga last season, it was Bayern Munich who won the title convincingly and in record breaking fashion. Gee, what we saw from Bayern last season was remarkable. The question is, will they do it again?
Probably not in record-breaking fashion. Probably not as emphatically as they did it last year. But it's the Bundesliga. Bayern Munich are going to win. I'd love to see a team like Borussia Dortmund, or anyone really. But like Dortmund and to me Leverkusen would kind of be the two to really challenge them. I hope that they at least challenge into kind of March April. But yeah, like it's going to be Bayern Munich.
Yeah, it has to be. And again, I totally agree that do I foresee them scoring over 100 goals again and smashing all sorts of records point wise, et cetera, et cetera? Probably not. But I definitely foresee Bayern Munich winning the league. But again, would love for somebody else to challenge just to make it a little bit more interesting than it was last season. And in France's Ligue 1, PSG perhaps left it later than they would have liked, but they did win the title just before winning the Champions League as well. Gee, an unbelievable team out there in France, and we're going to talk about some business here shortly that PSG has done this summer. That's only bolstering and bettering their squad, which is already fantastic. So I guess the real question is anyone going to challenge them, or do you see PSG as the out and out winners again this season in Ligue 1?
I mean, last season, I don't think anyone saw Lens challenging PSG the way that they did, pushing them to the last couple of games of the season. So you'd hope that whether it's Lens or someone else, anyone else, there will be that challenge. I think some teams in France have done good business, but similar with the Bundesliga, it's PSG's to lose. Like they're gonna win it unless something absolutely catastrophic happens to that squad. If they like all get like super long COVID and like they have to play the reserves, and even then, I trust the reserves might also win the league because that's just how PSG is. But yeah, it should be PSG's to lose.
Yeah, it really should. And again, they could probably field their B team to your point and still perform incredibly well. So pretty simple on that one. We're both going to take PSG. And as mentioned again, European club football does kick off this week. So exciting. And as the season gets underway, you can be sure to get all of your major updates, from Europe's top 5 leagues right here on the Full Time Podcast. Moving over to a domestic competition that is well into things, and that, of course, is Major League Soccer. They were the first league to get the ball rolling after the World Cup, with games resuming the week of the World Cup final. We will now have a look at how things stand at this moment in time in the MLS. In the Eastern Conference, Nashville sits atop of the table with 43 points. Inter Miami trails them in second with 38 points. G, your take on the East?
Yeah. Again, kind of not shocking to see Inter Miami kind of near the top. Obviously, Messi was on his holidays post World Cup, so he hasn't been there for the last couple of games. So you'd assume that once he's back and kind of in full flow, they'll be back to the top of the East, no problem. Nashville have done a fantastic job this season. A little bit of a weird season when I'm looking at kind of the top teams. A lot of the usual suspects, surprisingly low in the table. Only New York City, and Red Bulls are both kind of challenging just outside or just inside the playoff spots, and kind of Columbus Crew, Philadelphia Union, Atlanta United, all having really kind of poor seasons, not in playoff spots right now. Plenty of games still to play. They've only played 19 games so far, so a lot of time for those teams to turn it around. But a little bit of a wonky looking Eastern Conference table, if I say so myself.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. I just want to make a quick point on Nashville. I've been watching some of them, and they've been looking prolific in the attack, and they've been a joy to watch. And at times, just putting teams to the sword, and certainly knowing where the back of the net is. But fully expect Inter Miami to either top the East, if not have something like last season where they're going to be pushing towards the end. Maybe not finishing first, but definitely having an unbelievable run going into the playoffs. And our beloved Toronto FC currently sit in 12th place with 20 points. That's currently 4 points out of a playoff spot if things in the Eastern Conference ended today. There's still a fair bit of the season to go, but what have you made of things so far from TFC?
it's kind of been a tale of two teams. When TFC have been fit and healthy, they've been, I thought, really good, and maybe not a playoff team or an MLS Cup contender, but you can kind of see the foundations of what this team is trying to be. A semi-solid defense, some transition in the midfield, and a I don't want to call it prolific, but a good enough attack. Um, but obviously, we've had a lot of injuries. There was a stretch where I don't think any of our DPS were playing, all out injured. So we're just kind of getting them all back in together right now, which is good. Obviously, coming off a big win against New England. But yeah, I think if this team stays healthy, there's 4 points out of the playoffs is nothing at this point of the season. It's really doable. But really, the key thing is just going to be fitness. Mihailovic has looked fantastic when he's played. Josh Sargent has looked fantastic when he's played. Walker Zimmerman, when he's played, has been great. That's really been the story of TFC's season. So I think, yeah, as long as they can stay fit and healthy, I think there's a possibility for the playoffs. And then, I mean, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I mean, it just goes to show that not having your best players for prolonged periods of time, how your team can suffer. But my dad and I have watched a whole handful of TFC games, and there's been times when he's looked over at me, he's like, son, this game's boring. And I said, yeah, I agree. But, with just trying to hold on, I think TFC has like 8 draws this season, and just trying to get games over the line has been difficult for them. But again, just over the halfway point, there still is a fair bit of football to go, so nothing's to say that they can't get themselves into a playoff spot, and hopefully the team can remain healthy. And out in the Western Conference, it's super tight at the top of the table with Vancouver holding first with 37 points. Houston is in second with 35 points. LAFC is in third with 34 points. And San Jose is in fourth with 33 points. Gee, there's not a lot of room for error out there in the Western Conference.
No, I think outside of Inter Miami, I think all of the other kind of the best of the rest is all in the Western Conference. Vancouver Whitecaps are having a phenomenal season. Couple draws in their last few results, but really at this point in the season, that's not the worst thing in the world for them. They've looked fantastic. Thomas Muller's looked fantastic so far for them. At his age, still a steal of a signing for them. Fantastic for them. And really, again, kind of the shock, if you want to call it that. And again, we're only at the halfway point of the season. Time can change, but like teams like Portland and Seattle, and again LA Galaxy, still not in playoff spots. Really shocking to see. Really hope Seattle don't make the playoffs just because I hate them so much. But yeah, I think the West is looking a little more kind of how we would expect. But I think definitely kind of the best of the league is definitely in the West.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. The best of the league is in the Western Conference. Been enjoying some of the games that I've been able to watch. But for me, anyways, apart from Nashville's attack, Vancouver has certainly looked the best of the bunch. And they were my pick, of course, at the beginning of the season when we did our predictions to win the MLS. So I am sticking with them and looking forward to seeing what can happen here as the second half of the season is officially underway. And as the second half of the season kicks off here, you can get all of your Major League Soccer updates right here on the Full Time Podcast. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. If you're enjoying this episode of Full Time, don't forget to like and subscribe. It goes a long way in helping out the podcast and the channel. Moving over to transfer news, we will now take a look at the summer transfer window. The following transfer market news comes from The Guardian, so be sure to check them out as they provide up-to-the-minute transfer market information in the world of football. First is Bruno Guimaraes, who goes from Newcastle United to Arsenal for $75 million. I needed a new challenge in my life, and I want to win trophies, says the midfielder in his opening statement to the press. The 29-year-old pens a 4-year deal with the Premier League champions. Gee, a big signing for Arsenal. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because a big Arsenal signing, should be kind of your bread and butter. I think it's a really good signing. I think he adds, serious Premier League experience, almost 200 appearances for Newcastle. I know it's just a Carabao Cup, but won a Carabao Cup with Newcastle, knows how to win some trophies, and is just a really good player. Like this is, he's not at the point where he's like a luxury signing, if you know what I mean. And he's not just kind of like a depth. He's just a really, really good Premier League player. It's a fantastic signing.
Well, I concur with that totally, and I like a lot about this signing. He's Premier League proven. He's not super young, but he's not super old. 29, I think, is a perfect age, especially for his position. He does know how to win things, albeit, yes, it was only one Carabao Cup, but he's also a Brazil international, and he knows how to play on the biggest stages. And a thing that I really like about this signing, yes, it's good that we got the player, but now we don't have to kill Declan Rice playing. I think Declan Rice played 60 some odd games this past season, which is just ridiculous. We don't have to, play Zubamendi every game because he was running on fumes and he didn't even get to really play too much in the World Cup because his legs were gone. So I think with having Bruno Guimaraes in there, I think that actually frees up some people to have some added rest. And I think that's just going to make our squad better. So really like this signing. I think it definitely shores things up. Saliba is going to be out for a prolonged period of time, 4 to 6 months with that back injury. So just have some added protection in front of the back four with Bruno Guimaraes, I think is going to help. So a very smart piece of business in my eyes from Arsenal. Very happy with this one. Micah Gutz goes from Ajax to PSG for 47 million. The highly rated winger, age 21, has penned a 5-year deal with the European champions and will wear the number 22 shirt. G, what do you make of this signing?
Um, I don't think he's a bad player. Obviously, still super young, plenty of time to grow. Um, I think going to PSG at this point in his career is a bit of a questionable decision, especially when you look at what they have in attack. They have him. They have a player that we're going to talk about shortly, who's a signing, who's a winger. They have Doué. They have Mbaye. They have Kvarts, the Georgian winger. They have Barcola. Like Ousmane Dembele. Like they have so much in attack that unless you're a legitimate superstar, who's going to really change that attack, you're not walking into the starting 11. You're going to be battling for players of that similar age bracket. That's the other issue, is that they're not like an old team. It's all players kind of 20 to 24 for the most part in that attack. So it's not like you're be rotating with the 33-year-old and kind of sharing minutes there. You're all going to be competing. So I don't think it's a bad signing. I question his choice of club. In terms of minutes where he's going to get. I think he's going to be really limited in his minutes. Is he going to be good in those minutes? Probably. He's going to be playing in one of the best teams in the world. He looks like a very good young player. But I just get a little bit questionable.
So I was on the exact same wavelength as you, and I thought the exact same. And then I thought to myself, well, he must have had a conversation with Luis Enrique, because every time that I switch my phone on to whatever media platform, it's that Barcola is going somewhere every day, whether it's Arsenal, Liverpool, or somewhere else. So the only thing that I can think of is that he must have been told, Barcola is going to go, you're going to fill in, you're going to play backup for a couple of seasons, then we'll get you into the 11, in 2, 3 seasons time. That's the only logical thing that I can think of. But yeah, I think he's going to have to earn his minutes in a very good squad with him coming in, especially at that price as well. But we'll see what happens. He's definitely going to a winning team, so I'm sure that he'll get some trophies under his belt, irrespective of how much he plays. Magnus Akliuche goes from Monaco to PSG for 42.8 million. The hugely talented 24-year-old who went to the World Cup with France this summer makes a big move to the European champions on a 5-year deal. So, Gitano, it's more business now for PSG. What can you say for this one?
Again, this is pretty much the exact same. You could like copy and paste, what I just said there. He is a little older and has a little more international experience, which will probably play into his hands. He'll probably see a few more minutes than. Oh my god, I already forgot his last
Mike
name.
Gotts.
Yes, him. But yeah, I think he'll see a little more. But again, similar idea of like you're going into a team that is overloaded with attacking players, and it's going to be a challenge to get those minutes. But again, once he gets those minutes, I think he'll be a fine player for them. And I think another big thing for him is he has 23 goals and 139 appearances for Monaco, so he's been playing in Liga. So I think he has a bit more of an advantage in that sense. But again, kind of playing for these same positions, I think it'll be tough.
It will be tough, and you kind of copy and paste it. I'll also copy and paste a little bit here too, unless if PSG maybe are going to have some outgoings, the likes of Barcola and maybe some others. Maybe these guys are going to fill in. Maybe that's a conversation that's been had behind closed doors with the manager. So again, that's what I'm kind of hanging my hat on with these signings. But irrespective, again, a pretty good price tag for a decent and up and coming player. And finally, it's Ferran Torres, who goes from Barcelona to, you guessed it, PSG for 42.8 million as well. The World Cup winner at age 26 has penned a 5-year deal and will wear the number 9 shirt for PSG. Gitano, from World Cup glory to a remarkable move at club level. It's been a great couple of months for Ferran Torres, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big difference for Ferran Torres versus the previous two players we talked about is PSG don't really have like an out and out nine. They have players that can play in there, like Dembele can play through the middle. All these guys can play through the middle, but I think Ferran Torres is at his best through the middle. He is a number nine that can play out wide instead of a wide player that can play inside. I think that's kind of the big difference when we look at when I'm going to talk about him, being a good signing for them and the choice for him being good is I think that he's going to get minutes. I don't think they have anyone who's solidified in that number nine spot. I think giving him the literal number nine shirt, I think was a statement of like you're going to play through the middle and we're going to rotate the rest of these guys around you. And the beauty of him as a player is that he can in the middle of a game kind of switch it up and he can play out wide for a bit if Dembele is going to come inside. He can move around. He can be flexible. He's a great player. I loved him at City. It was sad to see him go. He did pretty well at Barcelona, 65 goals in 207 appearances. Solidified his spot in the Spain squad and scored a World Cup winning goal. Like he's not by any stretch a bad player. Honestly, for 50 mil, I think that's a pretty good deal. If we're going to be totally honest, I think Barcelona probably could have demanded more if they wanted and got it. So I think this is just a really good transfer all around.
A really good transfer all around. And again, I think he's going to really enjoy life at PSG. I think he's nailed on to be a starter. And no matter how you want to structure that front three, whether it's him, Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, or him, Doué and Dembele, whoever, I think he's going to pick up a lot of assists. I think he's just going to be able to slide people in and they're going to be able to score. And I think he's going to score a lot of easy goals because other people are going to set him up through the middle or even if he drifts out wide. So I think that he's going to enjoy life out there at PSG. So ton of business that we just talked about there in France. But of course, Gitano, we did not cover every single transfer move that has taken place so far this window. So are there any moves that have caught your eye as of recent?
Nothing major. The only one I'm going to bring up is Man City bringing in Geronimo Rulli as backup keeper. Funny enough, he actually was signed and sold by City in the summer of 2016. So bringing him back to actually play this time, but 34 years old, was playing at Marseille last season, has played at Ajax, Villarreal, Real Sociedad. So he's been around, got some experience. So he's going to be a good backup keeper. I think Gunnar was still going to play the majority of the minutes, but to have kind of safe hands and our backup keeper in Rulli, I think is fine. I don't think backup keeper is a weird one because you can't really get a great keeper because they want to play, but you also have to get someone good enough. I think he's just good enough. He'll be a great backup keeper. It's a tidy little piece of business. 2 million euros, I think it was the fee. So like, can't complain.
No complaints there. And on my end, Gitano, no transfer news that I want to talk about, but happy retirement to Ciro Immobile, 36 years of age. I'll never forget the European club glory that he brought to Italia in 2021. So happy retirement, and hopefully he can just go kick his feet up on a beach somewhere and enjoy a beer.
I got to see him play live, and he scored the goal for Italy when they beat Israel in the game that I saw. So absolutely shout out
There you
to
go.
Immobile.
Unbelievable. That's awesome. And well earned and a fantastic career. With exactly 2 weeks left in the transfer window, teams will have the remaining time to buy, loan, and sell players. In our next episode of Full Time, we will recap the final 2 weeks of the transfer window, including deadline day for you all. And now it is time for a local soccer update. The end of August is approaching, which means for students and teachers alike, it is just about time to return back to school. However, for local soccer enthusiasts, it means the start of the university soccer season. For us here in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, that of course means Algoma University women's and men's soccer gearing up for another season in Ontario University Athletics, where the best of the best in the province of Ontario compete on the provincial and eventual national stage. Gee, I remember last November recapping national soccer for university level right here on our show. We got to talk about national soccer and how it was played in that tremendous snowstorm in Toronto and how we never seen anything like it. And it does feel like it was just a couple of weeks ago that we talked about that. And now we are here gearing up for another university soccer season. Fall footy is in the air, isn't it?
I'm so excited, and I know we're gonna kind of get really into it, but like some big changes with Algoma U, some big signings. So I'm super excited. I think the teams look really good, and any chance to kind of watch the best in the province play, try and take it. So yeah, to have the season kind of around the corner, I'm super excited.
Yeah, you and me both. And social media has done the rounds and has done a fantastic job of getting fans and people alike excited. I've been getting tons of updates as of recent for players to watch out for, teams that have made improvements, new coaches coming into the league, these sorts of things. So there's going to be so many good things to look forward to in the OUA on both the women's and the men's side. But of course, Gitano, our focus here is women's and men's soccer at Algoma University in the Sioux, and we are fortunate to endure this as the weeks come along. So, for our folks here in the community, Gitano, what can we expect to see this upcoming season for Algoma from a soccer program perspective on both the women's and the men's side?
So I'll start with the women. I think their program's kind of in a transitional spot still, still kind of trying to kind of really build the program from the bottom up. So I don't think maybe the best results in the world is what we're going to see, but what we've seen the last couple of years is kind of that improvement year on year of slowly getting better. So I think they'll take another step this year. Again, obviously, it isn't going to be like winning national championships or anything, but you expect them to take a good step forward. And on the men's side, there have been a ton of signings. I know you've told me about a few of them. We had we did not have a player go and like train with the was it Venezuela?
Uh,
No, it was Colombia,
Colombia,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, training with like the Colombian national team like during the World Cup. Like the men program has have signed some serious talent. And they had a fantastic season last year. I don't think either of us really expected what we got from them last year. So if they're going to kind of take a step and build on that, we're in for a really special season on the men's side.
Yeah, I think you summarized that incredibly well. Transition for the women, there are going to be finally this year for the women some fourth year players that will actually graduate out of the program, many of which whom I coached. So I'm looking forward to seeing them in their final season. And then there's going to be a lot of new players coming in, and as well a new manager this season coming in for the women's side. So definitely wishing them the best in this transition period, but still expecting them to hopefully be competitive. And then on the men's side, 14 off-season signings, just bolstering that already fantastic squad that they have. And you want to talk about taking the next step. I think the next step for this Algoma men's team is to make the playoffs. So I know you and I will be going out to a couple of games when we can together to go and watch and support the team, and definitely wishing Algoma nothing but the best this season on both the women's and the men's side. And for those who are looking to get out to support Algoma University soccer, the league campaign for Algoma kicks off on the road as the Thunderbirds will be kicking off their season out of town against the McMaster Marauders and then the Guelph Griffins. The T-Birds will have their home opener weekend on Saturday, September 5th and Sunday, September 6th, where Algoma will take on the Wilfrid Laurier Golden Hawks. On both days, the women's team will kick off at 1 p.m. and the men will follow at 3:15 p.m. All games can be watched at Superior Heights Field, and games will be live streamed by Sioux Sports on YouTube. For the season, you can catch every roll of the ball across the province on the OUA TV app. We look forward to covering our local game at university level for you all this season. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. If you've made it to this point, do us a favor and drop a like on the video. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button to get all sports related content from 91 Network. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we prepare to round out today's program, we want to say a massive thank you to you all for joining us. G, great job as always, my friend.
Great job to you as well. Just so excited for the season kickoff, and every season when I get like the text from you, okay, like here's the thing, we're doing the preview. I'm like now the season's like about to kick off, like let's go. So this was a super exciting episode. Always is a super exciting episode, but it's just a little bit more exciting this one. So thank you for having me, and excellent job.
Thank you, sir. And, I actually got some comments as of recent. Oh, you must be bummed that your summer vacation's coming to an end. And I said, absolutely not, because one, like we talked about at the top of the episode, I love structure and routine in my life. But two, that means that the football is back in full force. So you got to take all the positives, and there's so many positives upcoming here. And it all starts this week. And we definitely look forward to being back here on our podcast in a couple of weeks' time. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of August 31st, 2026. In that show, we will recap the summer transfer window with the final signings, deals, and major news stories prior to and on deadline day. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, share, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at suetoday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.